welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing my January reading wrap up. This is probably going to be a longer video because I read 16 books in January. 16 books. Let's just get right in. Let's not waste any time. And before you ask, no, I don't know how I did this. I genuinely have no clue. I just like blinked and was like, oh, I read 16 books this month. 16 books. That's insane. I have some statistics for you guys. I read 16 books, 5,679 pages. My average rating was a 3.6 and there were 3 5 stars. 6 of them were from my 26 books to read in 2026. And yeah, let's just jump in. The first book of the year I finished on January 1st, 2026, and that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This was my first mystery thriller. I gave it a 3.5. This is about Adam and Amelia and they go on this weekend retreat to this cottage in Scotland and it's all snowed in. They want to take this weekend to really work on their marriage. Also, something I found very cool about this book is that Adam has face blindness. That was never something that I had read about or honestly really heard anything about before reading this book, so I thought that's super cool. I gave this a 3.5. I was not able to predict where it was going. I thought it was fast-paced. However, I didn't necessarily like what the big plot twist is. I kind of wished it had gone in a different direction, which sounds crazy, but I was not really into the way that where this book went. I just wasn't really into it. The next book I read in 2026 was Shark Heart by Emily Habeck. This is a honestly beautiful story about these newlyweds, Lewis and Wren, who a little bit after they get married, they find out that Lewis is slowly turning into a great white shark and he will eventually have to be released. Beautiful, beautiful metaphor about losing somebody to terminal illness, and it really goes into depth very beautifully and very much so in a real way about the feeling somebody experiences when they're losing somebody to terminal illness. However, I did give this 3 stars because while I thought the story was beautiful, I thought the metaphor was beautiful, I thought the writing was beautiful as well. This book is broken up into several parts, and a big majority of the book, a large chunk of the book, is set in part 2. Part 2 gives you a background and a backstory to one of the characters and tells you the story of something that happened when that character was a child. However, that part was very slow and I genuinely almost DNF'd the book while we were in part 2. I wasn't really liking part 2 as much, but mainly because I knew what part 2 was going to reveal about the background of one of these characters, and I had predicted that this had happened in the background of, I had predicted that this was the case with this person's background 30 pages into part 1. So while part 2 was harder for me to read, I still did enjoy this book. I gave it 3 stars. I think I would still recommend it. The next book I read on my Kindle, so I don't have, is Face Off by Chelsea Curto. This is book 1 of the DC Star series. It's about Emmy and Maverick. Emmy is playing on, I don't know the ins and outs of hockey. I think it's like she's playing on the team that's not the NHL, but it's like the AHL or something. It's one of like the lower tiered divisions to the NHL, and she gets brought up to an NHL team. She's the first woman to play in the NHL, and she ends up starting to have a thing with her team captain, Maverick. This book, it was cute. It was a good way to start the series. It was a good way to, you know, introduce us to the world and introduce us to all the characters. I did have a fun time, and I am excited to read the rest of the series. I gave it 3 stars. There wasn't anything like mind-blowing to me or new about this romance book. I feel like it was just an average romance book, which is fine. I am excited to read the rest of the series. Also, something that pissed me off was I was reading this and I grew up not in DC, but around the DC area. And to me, it seemed like this author has never been to DC. That's just what it was giving. And the fact that the entire series is supposed to take place in DC, and it seems like this author had never really been to DC. Anyway, next book I read was a reread to watch the movie, and that was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I love this. I gave this 5 stars. Again, this was a reread. This was the first Emily Henry book I ever read. I read this when it was only People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read Out. So yeah, this took me back to high school, honestly. This is about Poppy and Alex. They're best friends, meet in college and find out that they actually have the same hometown. They just never met while they were in that town. They become friends and they decide that every single summer they're gonna go on this trip together. And this takes place in past and present perspective, and you're getting the past of all their trips and also the present perspective of the trip they're on now. And we're slowly unraveling why they haven't talked for the past 2 years. So yeah, I really love this. I'm very glad that I reread it before watching the movie, and I did love the movie. I thought Emily Bader and Tom Blythe did a great job at playing Alex and Poppy. So yeah, the next book I read was another Alice Feeney. This is His and Hers. I read this to watch the Netflix show, and then I didn't like the Netflix show. This is about an ex-wife and husband. One of them is a newscaster and the other one is a detective, and they're brought back to their hometown when somebody is murdered, and they are both being wrapped up in the murder situation. There are two sides to every story, yours and mine, ours and theirs, his and hers, which means someone is always lying. I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading this. I remember I was staying up into the night reading this because I was scared shitless just because I was like, the killer's gonna come get me. It was crazy, but I really like this. Now, when it came to the Netflix show, I honestly did not mind them moving it to the United States. I thought that the drama and everything was like perfectly fitted for small town rural America. I thought that it made perfect sense in an American setting. I thought that was great. I didn't have a problem with that change at all. My problem with it was I feel like the reveals were done weirdly, and the reveals were not done in an order that made sense to the story, if that made sense. So it felt like when you get to the final big plot twist, it isn't as believable as it is when you're reading the book. At least in my opinion. That's what it felt like. But yeah, I really like this. Alice Feeney always keeps me on my toes. I can never guess. The next book I read was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This is about an older woman named Tova. After her husband dies, she decides to get this job at an aquarium where she befriends an octopus named Marcellus. We also get this point of view of a guy named Cameron. He is trying to find his birth father. This really is a beautiful story. I loved Tova so much. She reminded me so much of my Nana and my Mimi and older women in my life that I look up to. Marcellus was a hoot. Loved him. Marcellus, amazing. I want to read more books that have the point of view of an animal. I really enjoyed Marcellus. However, hated Cameron so much. I gave this book 3 stars because I was like, that's a good balance of the two. Every time we were in a Cameron chapter, I wanted to DNF. Cameron was just the definition of man-child by Sabrina Carpenter, and he never got better. He never learned his lesson at all. Horrible man-child. I hated him. Yeah, genuinely. Every time we were in a Cameron chapter, I wanted to DNF, and I had to keep holding out so that way I could get back to a Tova or Marcellus chapter. I really didn't like Cameron, but I did like the rest of this book, and I thought it was a really cute story. Oh my god, speaking of man-children, the next book I read was The Bromance Book Club by Lyssa K. Adams. I got this from the library. I've been wanting to read this book for a while because the premise interested me. It's about, essentially, the series in general is about a group of guys who they have this book club where they read romance books to help them fix their relationships and their marriages and everything and learn like what women like. I gave this 2 stars. I hated this. This is the entire story, okay? A man is married for 4 years and then suddenly realizes that maybe he should get to know his wife. Maybe his wife has sexual and emotional needs. Maybe his wife is a person. And that's literally it. I hated it. Again, man-child. Everyone pissed me off. I gave it 2 stars because I did like Thea and I was like understanding of her situation. However, everybody else pissed me right the fuck off. Everybody else pissed me off. Okay, next book. First Time Caller by BK Borison. I gave this 3 stars. This is about Aiden and Lucy. Aiden works at this radio show. It's like a romance hotline in Baltimore. He's also like not quite believing in love anymore. Then one day somebody's daughter comes in and is like, I'm calling about my mom. And the mom in question is Lucy. And Lucy comes on and she's talking her shit and she's talking about all these things she feels and she goes viral. So the show has her come on the show and she's like looking for love and it's their love story. I thought this was really cute. I feel like I would have really enjoyed this if I felt connected to the characters. That was my biggest issue, is just I did not feel connected to the characters. I did not really care about them. Again, I liked the story and I really liked everything and I wish I could be more connected to the characters, but I just can't. I gave it 3 stars, which I think is appropriate because I really liked the story. I just like did not care about the characters enough. The next book, I read my first Freida McFadden. This was The Housemaid. I gave it 3.5 stars. This was very predictable and easy to read. However, I had a fun time, let me tell you. This was gripping. I read it in one afternoon. It was really gripping and I like just kept turning the pages. Was it predictable? Yes. And I felt really smart for finally predicting the plot twists in a thriller for once. But yeah, overall, predictable, easy to read, nothing groundbreaking, however, fun to read. It's about Millie. She's like living in her car. She has a criminal background. She interviews to be like a live-in housemaid nanny situation for this family, and she gets it. And she's over time being like, wow, the wife and the mom is fucking crazy. Like, this bitch is crazy. What is wrong with her? Yeah, it was a fun time. I had fun. I liked it. Next book I read was Tough Guy by Rachel Reid. I have read books 1, 2, and 6 of the Game Changers series, so this is book 3. I plan to eventually finish them all. I really like this. This was cute. This was about Ryan and Fabian. Fabian is like this artist, musician, and Ryan is a professional hockey player and he keeps getting traded every season. Ryan actually lived with Fabian's family when they were kids when he was in the junior hockey league, but now they both are coming together because Ryan got traded to Toronto where Fabian's staying, and they both reconnect and they, you know, reignite that spark they had when they were younger. This was really cute. Going into this, I didn't have the best attitude because I was excited about Fabian because I thought, you know, reading about an artist, a musician, I was really excited about that, but I, like, for the life of me could not remember Ryan Price, and I was like, why do I care about him? Like, how is he connected to all these other characters? But I found this cute. I gave it 3 stars. The reason I gave it 3 stars, and this is a problem I've been having with Rachel Reid's books, is when there is the need for a third act buildup or a third act conflict, it feels like she makes the characters act outside of who they actually are and behave in ways and make decisions that they wouldn't make. But yeah, give it 3 stars. I had a good time. When I was describing that, I felt like I was like, I know Dada. Like, next book, Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood. I listened to this from my library because this is like an audio only book. For right now, it's coming out this month in like paper format. This is a novella from Ali Hazelwood that's audio only right now. This is about Viola and Jesse, and they work for like rival companies, but the companies are gonna have to come together to work on this video game that Viola is really passionate about. Viola thinks that Jesse hates her. Both of the companies are gonna come together and they're gonna go on this retreat to see if they can work together on this video game. And that's where this little love story takes place. I thought it was cute. I gave it 3.75 stars. It was cute for what it was. I like wish it would have been able to go deeper into like the story and the characters and stuff, but also it is a novella, like there's only so much you can do. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked it for what it was. Next book, my first new 5-star of the year, The Wedding People by Alison Espach. Espach? One of those probably. This is about Phoebe, who she is recently divorced from her husband, and she is going on this vacation to the Cornwall in Rhode Island in Newport, and this is something she's been wanting to do for a while. When she gets there, she finds out she's the only one there that isn't part of this like wedding party, and everybody else that's staying there is part of this wedding, and she runs into the bride. The bride's like pissed off that Phoebe's there, but they both like form this unlikely friendship, and they're so unfiltered with each other and really working through their life with each other, and I really enjoyed this. There's so many quotes in here that I have highlighted just about life and things, and I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. I would say check trigger warnings, but this was really fun. I loved it. The next book was another one that I really loved, The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Where this takes place, there is this like local legend about this girl named Lenora Hope who killed all of her family one night. However, Lenora is still alive. The main character of this book, Kit, becomes like sort of a hospice nurse for her. And of course, she gets there, things are starting to get weird. She gets to this house and things are starting to get weird. And that's what this thriller is about. This was amazing. I was just like hooked and gripped from the very first page, honestly. The twists kept coming and I didn't know what was happening. Like, I had no clue that things were gonna go the way they did. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was amazing. I ended up crying at the end, like happy tears at the end. It was so good. I gave it 4.5. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me, but it was really good. Next book I read was Problematic Summer Romance. I read this tandem read with an audiobook that I got from the library. This is really cute. I love Ali Hazelwood. I really do. So this is the sequel to Not in Love by her, but they're like interconnected standalones. I did not read Not in Love, and now I want to because I read so much about the couple from Not in Love in this book. In this book, Maya and Connor are going to the couple from Not in Love's wedding. Maya is the sister of the guy from Not in Love, and Connor is the best friend of the guy from Not in Love. And they have this age gap. He's like looking out for her. I really like this book. I had a good time. I gave it 4 stars. Also, there were some character cameos from my other favorite Ali Hazelwood books in this, and I was really excited about that. Okay, two more, and then I have gotten through all the books I read in January. Okay, this was my first fail of a thriller, like actual fail. But I feel like it's not even a crazy fail. The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, I gave this 2.75 stars. This is about this girl Jess, and she's going to live with her brother Ben in London, and she gets to the apartment and Ben's missing. Slowly, everybody who lives in this apartment building starts to become a suspect. And also, this is like a very fancy building. Like, the people there are rich. What I liked about this book, I loved the vibes. That sounds so... I feel like an idiot when I say that. I loved the, like, rich Parisian, like, French aristocratic family vibes. Loved that. Everything else I found boring. I feel like the plot of the book didn't happen till, like, here. I don't know. I just didn't really like it. I really was not hooked. I was not gripped. I feel bad saying this, but it was predictable, and I know I said that about The Housemaid, and I gave The Housemaid 3.5 and I gave this 2.75, but The Housemaid was fun to read. This was not. Anyway, and thank God after I read that, I was like, I need a 5-star. I went to an author that I knew was going to take me out of the trenches, Kennedy Bryan, and I read This Could Be Us. Oh, this was so good. I gave this 5 stars. I think Kennedy Bryan writes emotion in a way that nobody else can, and I love it. This is about Soledad Barnes. She, you know, has this perfect little family. She has 3 kids. She's a stay-at-home mom. She's running the household. And then all of a sudden, boom, her husband gets arrested by the FBI for embezzling $6 million from the company he works for. And she also finds out he's cheating on her. Her entire life explodes and falls apart, and this book is her picking up the pieces and making a life for herself, learning how to love and trust herself, and also putting the pieces back together for her children, and learning to support her family. Also, this beautiful love story with Judah, who coincidentally is the man who put her ex-husband in jail. I loved this. Again, there was just so much. I have so many words and also no words, and also I loved it. 5 stars. Amazing, beautiful. I recently just got the audiobook for Can't Get Enough. So after I finish the book that I'm currently reading, I am going to immersive read that, and I can't wait because this is book 2 in the Skyland series. The Skyland series follows a group of 3 girlfriends, and the 3rd book is about Hendrix and the way that Hendrix was there for her friends in both Before I Let Go and This Could Be Us, and This Could Be Us especially. I am so excited to see her get her own love story. I just think she is such a caring friend, and I am really excited for her to get her own love story. Those were all the 16 books I read in January. I hope you enjoyed this video. It feels like I've been filming forever and I'm out of breath, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!